Good morning to you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very good. And yourself?
Yeah, good. So everything that we thought we knew about Limerick came true. They are a dynamic team who are hurling to the peak of their powers at the moment. It was a stunning performance, just in the confidence of their ability to execute skills in the worst weather conditions that I've ever seen a match in. So, that's as good a performance, I would say, as we've seen since John Kiley's been manager. That's certainly my take on it. You've been watching this team very well over the last number of years. You've seen those lads, some of them grow since they were kids. What was your take on that game?
Yeah, I suppose mentally, my frame of mind before the game was, it was a terrible day, and the team that was going to adapt the quickest to the conditions obviously had a head start. But, to be fair to Limerick, I think they were possibly waiting for this game since the All-Ireland last year. I would have made a good few players up in Croke Park after the All-Ireland final, Limerick players, and, to say they were sick would be minimising it. So they were waiting for this one to come. And, it's very similar to the type of hurling, the type of power, the type of strength that they bought in 2018. And, they were just tying with Tipperary, and Tipperary, there was an awful lot of fear in their defence, an awful lot of errors. Okay, and you would put it down to the weather, but Limerick yesterday, they were at it from the start to the very end, and they're after sending out a huge signal to whatever teams are left after yesterday.
Ciarán, can you just explain to us just how hard a winter it was last year for Limerick? You mentioned how sick the fellas you met were on All-Ireland final day, and I can imagine the manner in which they lost to Kilkenny last year has given them so much hunger coming into 2020, and they've had to wait the extra few months for it as well.
Yeah, and I suppose there's a premise out there at the moment that Kilkenny were kind of all of a sudden getting a formula to put a stop to Limerick in that particular game. And without a doubt, no matter what style you're trying to implement, unless you back it up with work rate, and I suppose Tipperary traditionally will always come with that. But on that particular day, Limerick did underperform, number one. Kilkenny played a part in that, number two. But, if they were at it that day and they were able to implement what they usually do, I think it would have been a different ball game. But, they were very disappointed. They were after winning the Munster champions inside the Gaelic grounds against Tipperary. It was like seniors against juniors. You win that Munster championship, you're beaten in the semi-final, and the team then that you give a mother and a father of hiding to the Munster final, when you see them to go on to win the All-Ireland, it can be fairly demoralising, and as I said, Limerick are waiting for that for the last 12 months.
It's a great sign that this isn't a team that was a one-year flash in the pan, that this isn't, obviously Clare won in All-Ireland in 2013, but they never backed it up and they never fulfilled the potential of that team. This Limerick team seems, the character through the core of the team just seems to be a little bit different, and there's no sense that this is a team that's going away or going anywhere for the near future.
No, without a doubt, and I kind of made a prediction in early 2018 what Dublin towards inter-county football, Limerick are and will be the same in hurling, and it's going that particular way, and I think there's a lot of teams out there actually struggling still. Even in the last 2 years, how to prevent Limerick or what kind of a system to put in place that might suit them. There's a lot of teams still struggling, and Limerick are 5 to 6 years perfecting and implementing the structure that they want to play. But not only that, they're tweaking it every so often as well, as we saw that yesterday in positional switches.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
Well, no, I was actually just going to pick up on those positional switches because they are the key noticeable thing tactically yesterday. So Cian Lynch at centre forward, Kyle Hayes at wing back. We've seen this before, but not in as big a game as this, Ciarán, I understand.
No, you wouldn't. But you see, there were two naturally switches, if you like, because Kyle Hayes would have always kind of grown up as a defender. Cian Lynch, if you like, with his club and Limerick, has played midfield for the last 4 to 5 years. So effectively, when he's centre forward, he's possibly a third midfield. So whatever number you get in your jersey, I suppose back in the old days you'd be a traditional centre forward, but that's not the case now. Limerick seem to flood the midfield, and whether the 5 bodies or 8 bodies, the bottom line is you get possession, you work it through the lines, and you get it in towards Aaron Gillette or Graham Mulcahy as quick as you can.
The performance of Gillette in particular, there was one piece of highlight where they were like, the ball gets put forward to him and it's Ciarán Carey versus this sea of defenders on his own, and because he's physically capable of withstanding that and has the skill set and has the brains and the bravery to be able to do that, then all of a sudden it means that you've got numerical advantages all over the rest of the pitch, because you can leave him up there and Tipperary feel like they do need to have 2 or 3 men on him.
Yeah, and they struggled actually tactically yesterday, outside of the unforced errors and the mistakes they were making on the ball. You know, I thought their shape was very poor. They were sucked into Limerick's play, and it suited Limerick, as you rightly pointed out, because the bottom line is that 9 times out of 10, and they had a good few rocks in the middle of the field. Limerick always came out with it. Next thing it's 1-2, 1-2, and all they're looking for then is a bit of grass and a bit of space directly in front. And it doesn't have to be a kind of a ball into the hand. Just grass will do. And, you know, once Ciarán Carey sees the grass, you know, he'll devour it up.
How much went actually into the physicality of these players in the off-season? Like, they've always been big, but it seems that they've gone to a whole new level this year, Ciarán.
Yeah, like, you know, and we saw in 2018, you know, the power, the strength, the pace and the skill Limerick have got back then, and as you rightly pointed out, I believe they've possibly gone to another level. Actually, even if you look at Keane Linchester physically, he's a lot more trimmer even this year than he was 2 years ago, if that can be possible. And to me, it was possible. You could see it yesterday, evidently it was, and he looked sharper, a lot lighter on the feet, quicker to turn, and you know, his vision and imagination is always there. But if you're going to add that extra onto him, you know, you could see yesterday, you know, he had a huge part in Limerick's win yesterday. But not only him, he's only won at 34, 35. And I suppose the mantra in Limerick really, you know, you need to empty the tank, but not only empty the tank, you have to be prepared to empty the spare tank as well. And, you know, if you look at all the subs that come on yesterday, all physically strong men, but more important, all very, very quick players, and they are going to hurt you the last 10 or 15 minutes of most games.
It doesn't sound like this Limerick team are going to fear anybody, right? I totally understand that they're cresting to the peak of their powers. They're in a great scenario where they have the confidence of an All-Ireland victory behind them, but they also have the chippiness of an All-Ireland they feel they left behind. So they have a sense of mission and a bit of a revenge tour going on. Was there anything that you saw maybe from any of the other teams at the weekend, Kilkenny in the first half, or even Galway's dominance against Wexford, to make you think, okay, well, look, you know, we understand we're the big dog here, but we're there to be shot at, and those 2 teams in particular will have something for us later on down the line?
Yeah, very good point. And I suppose if I was to be picking something at Limerick, and I watched the performance very closely against Clare, and to be fair, you know, Clare kind of underperformed, but didn't put a glove on Limerick. And you know, there was a bit of speculation leading into it was going to be full of rivalry, and that certainly wasn't there. But if I had to be critical of Limerick, you know, in watching them the last 4 to 5 years, especially when you take into account the physicality and the power they have in the half-forward line, the skill they have in the inside line, Mulcahy, Ciarán Carey and Casey, you know, Limerick should be a bit more ruthless, and they should be they have the ability to be hanging 3 to 4 goals per match. And you know, they'll send out a huge signal if they went down that road. But to be fair, they seem to be getting the points. But I think, you know, 33, 34 points is outstanding. But if you could add another 3 goals for that, you're sending out a huge sign. Yeah, but to answer your question, yeah, Galway, I suppose, would be the team that I'd be looking at. Possibly Waterford could be dark horses. You know, Cahill and Shane O'Neill are doing outstanding jobs with both counties, and did a huge win over the weekend. And you could see both managers what they're trying to implement with the team that they've got. There's obviously a process there, and they're trying to play to a certain system. So if I had to pick any teams that could be kind of a stumbling block to Limerick, possibly Galway.
Sorry, Ger. I'd just be keen to get your take on the other big Munster game over the course of the weekend, Ciarán, because we talk about 2018 quite a lot when it comes to this Limerick team, and it's almost like a sliding doors moment. That match against Cork, that incredible All-Ireland semi-final that a lot of Cork people feel they should have won, and they will tell you that they should have gone on to win the All-Ireland. And to look at their performance on Saturday compared to Limerick on Sunday, they're light years apart, really, aren't they?
They are, and you know, from a neutral and from the outside looking in, I'm looking at Cork and I'm looking at their bench, which is strong enough. You know, potentially, they have what it takes to push up to Limerick and probably catch them on the day, but they don't seem to have a system that's actually working presently at the moment. Whereas they have plenty of skill, they have plenty of power. They just seem to be a small bit confused, but that might be a strong word, in how they're playing. But certainly from the outside looking in, and when I'm looking at Cork hurling, I'm saying, yeah, there's a squad there that's capable of doing serious damage if they can just hurl to a system that suits them.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to be this year. One last point. It sounds like from the way you're talking that for whatever the Limerick lads felt about Tip winning the All-Ireland last year, that the revenge tour won't be complete until they actually manage to get Kilkenny back.
Yeah, well, that'll be on the back of their mind as well. But at the end of the day, they're in the Munster final now, and they're facing a new animal now in Waterford. And Limerick have given them Waterford a trim in the last 2 years, so Waterford has plenty of motivation to kind of bounce back to Limerick. But on top of that, they have an outstanding manager, and obviously he has them humming at the moment in Liam MacCarthy.
Ciarán, that's brilliant today. Thanks a million for joining us. Great to have you on. Thanks a million.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Bye.
Limerick legend Ciarán Carey giving us some insight into the darkness and the dark soul of the Limerick winter that produced that performance the weekend, which was, like, when you think about it, like as we talked about the comedy rain at the start of the show, billowing across, like to be able in the midst of that to pick out quality passes and to play the way they did against a team who we just assumed were going to be like their main rivals for the All-Ireland this year. Stunning stuff, really. 3 minutes past 9 here.